Upside-down roots. The assembled guests in Bnei Brak were proud to have been invited to the Sudas Mitzvah, the festive meal to celebrate a mitzvah. The young Baal Tshuva was making a siyum on his first Masechta, tractate of Talmud, and for him, it was the joyful culmination of a long, hard road back to the authentic Yiddishkeit of his forefathers. His parents were not religious, and he had never attended a yeshiva. But now in Eretz Yisrael, he had discovered Torah and Judaism, had been inspired, and had made long, steady progress that brought him to this major milestone. He had progressed from Siddur to Chumash to Mishnah to Gemara, and now this siyum. His joy was boundless, and all his friends shared his happiness. All except his father. His father sat glumly, seemingly oblivious to the evening's festivities. To him, the study of Talmud meant nothing. At first he had refused to attend this party, but his son had begged him, and reluctantly he had consented to make an appearance. Every speaker spoke of the pride they had in young Ephraim. His Rebbe likened him to a man who builds his home painstakingly, cementing brick to brick until the house is complete. He said, each new line of the Gemara that Ephraim learned was added to all the others, finally making the Masechta complete. Ephraim himself could not contain his joy. With tears, he recalled his humble start, his newfound meaning in life. As he spoke, he stole a quick glance at his father. His father seemed uneasy. Now it was time for Birkas Hamazon, grace after the meal. But suddenly the father was moving in his chair. He stood up. He raised his hand to ask for silence. Knowing his uncaring, even negative attitude, the guests were surprised by his sudden desire to speak. He was wearing shorts and a cap, and now, as a speaker, he seemed even more out of place than before when he'd just been a detached onlooker. He looked over the crowd and asked for permission to say a few words. The people turned to him and waited in curious and respectful silence. He cleared his voice, and this is what he said. I have been watching this event for the past 2 hours, and I did not think it would affect me. Some of you may know that I was reluctant to come here, but now that I have seen the siyum and met some of you, I am happy that I came. If you will allow me, I would like to tell you a story. I come from Russia. I was an assimilated Jew there, but it did not do me any good with the Russian authorities. To them, an assimilated Jew is still a Jew. They accused me of disloyalty to communism and sent me to a labor camp in Siberia. For a year, I shared a working area with another fellow who was as afraid to talk to me as I was to him. We froze together, worked together, starved together, and still we never spoke. At the end of the year, I was granted my release. I felt I should say goodbye to my silent companion. When I did, he said that he wanted to tell me a story. I never understood the story. Perhaps he was afraid to explain it. But tonight, I think I understand. He said, once upon a time, there was an apple orchard. The trees in the grove grew beautifully, each apple shinier and more delicious than the next. Every year a new crop grew, and every year it was finer than the previous one. One summer day, a gardener turned to his friend and said, you know, the roots of these trees are filthy and dirty. They're black and muddy, yet they manage to produce such beautiful apples. If we were to take one of the trees, uproot it, turn it over, and put the top of the beautiful tree in the ground, how much more magnificent would the apples be? The other gardener was impressed with the logic, and so, together, they uprooted a few trees and placed the trees in the ground, upside down. The roots were now skyward, and the lovely leaves and branches were embedded in the earth. Nothing grew. But the gardeners were stubborn, and they repeated the process again and again, planting uprooted trees with their heads in the earth, not willing to give up until they would succeed. But they failed dismally, and soon there were no apples except one. That lone apple was saved somehow, and its seed was planted. The next year, a new sapling grew, and from that sapling, there was new hope for the future. With that, he ended his story, and we had to part, I to freedom, and he to further slavery. I never knew what he meant, although I've thought about it many times. Tonight, I know. My generation thought it had the right ideas. We would overturn the ideals that our forefathers had lived with for centuries. We would plant new, modern, logical ways of living, hoping to produce even better generations. It has not worked. But one apple was saved, and from him shall grow a future. The crowd was stunned into silence. The father waited as he tried to compose himself and say his next words. He looked at his son and said in a voice choked with emotion, "My son, you are the future. I am proud of you." And with that, he wept and embraced his son.